The Broman campaign continues. We're using Ravening Hordes. Not quite army lists from this. We generated 3 armies for the Undead, 3 armies for the Broman Empire, and we've been shoving them around a map that looks a little something like this. This is our map-based campaign. It looks like a node-based map. It's really kind of a, you can go anywhere you want, but the roads really speed armies along so much. It's kind of turned into a node-based map. This is how we do it. It's been like 5-6 months since we've played this campaign. We got the battle out of the way, so now we can kind of step back and look at the overall campaign structure. But before we do that, a couple of things I think we should cover. A couple of things we got wrong in that last video. First of all, I completely screwed up the leadership checks. The only guys making leadership checks, well, I screwed it up in 2 ways. One way that some of you have caught and probably already commented on, I was doing leadership roll over instead of roll under, which is completely backwards. I don't think it makes that big a difference. In the first major melee, the Bromans would not have charged the spear, but then they would have passed a couple of spear of checks when they tried to charge the spear guys trying to escape. So I think that's kind of a wash. On the other hand, I forgot about something very important. For those of you that are just jumping into this campaign, I use random events from Henry Hyde's Wargaming campaigns. And the random event that we came up with for the week of the 25th through April 2nd, I guess it would be, let's see, April, January, February, March. Yeah, March 25th through April 2nd, the moon is right. And I just noticed this as I was going through the army lists, which are, where is it? Here we go. When the moon is right, when they lose a combat, reduce the loss by 1 figure. So basically, the Necromancer, it's a full moon this week, and it's the perfect moon for summoning undead. So whenever, remember how Warhammer works, when the undead lose a combat, they don't make a morale check as normal. What happens is the difference in the scores that you have, that many additional figures are removed from the undead force. That should have been reduced by 1. So you calculate it as normal, figure out how many figures are supposed to be removed, but then because the dark is rising, you reduce that number by 1. So if ordinarily you would lose 7 figures, now you're only going to lose 6. Forgot about that. We will do that for the rest of this week. Other than that, I think we did a pretty good job. Now looking at things from the campaign structure, there were only 2 forces for the undead. Force Desdemona and Force Banquo. Now, Force Banquo has already fought a battle, and they are hurrying down this road to the crossroads. And on the night of the 26th, this is the day that the first battle was fought. Force Banquo is going to come charging in the very next day. The Bromans won the battle. They drove the Thrall back up to Castle Gallagher, and that Thrall took a whole bunch of skeletons with him. So we're going to have to deal with those when we do our final assault on Castle Gallagher. In the meantime, we're going to fight a second follow-up battle. The Bromans have just enough time in that force. Oh, it's Force Cherub fought Force Desdemona. So now the survivors of Force Cherub are going to get hammered a second time, and we can take a look at what that army list looks like. You know, I keep saying it's the Necromancer, but it's not. I keep forgetting that the main bad guy in this whole campaign is the Vampire Lord Blanc. The Necromancer is his chief wizard. And so this force right here is led by the Necromancer. He's Diab. Now, he had 1 wound in the first battle, but that healed on the 23rd. And as I said, this next battle is occurring on the 27th. So he'll have all 3 of his wounds. He is going to come to the party with 10 dire wolves, 3 bat swarms, and 53 skeletons. We are going to break those up into two different units of 25 and 28, and then Thrall Karinsky. So much different force. These dire wolves are going to be, they're pretty dangerous. Not going to lie. I think they're going to do a lot better than the Banshees, and they're going to be fighting the exact same force that we saw in the last round, short 7 of the spearmen that fell in battle to the undead. And that was Force Cherub. And so what I've done here is I've said, look, we have a couple of Knights of the Lamb that are coming back on the 30th. Not going to do them any good for this battle. They're not going to be able to, remember that we cross these off in red once they can't be used to summon any more undead. Not going to be able to bless that. Not going to be able to summon anymore for Force Desdemona because they're just going to come crashing in and try to drive this force away. If Force Banquo wins this battle, they're going to march down in this direction to try and stop Force Seraph, who is completely unblooded. And that's the other thing that we need to talk about here on the campaign map. Now, I retconned something. To be honest with you, and I'll explain why in just a moment, but let me tell you what we originally had happening. Force Archangel fought a couple of battles. They were pretty beat up, so they were going to march down and join with Force Seraph, and then hook up with Force Cherub, and then march on Castle Gallagher. The problem is, if you combine Archangel and Seraph, I don't have enough figures. That's going to be 2 cannons in the same army. I've only got 1 cannon figure. It's going to be way too many knights, so in order to avoid that kind of tabletop confusion or having to come up with, like, do I use Dark Elf figures instead? Boring. I've retconned the results of Force Archangel. Instead of marching down here to join up with Force Seraph, they move up here to consecrate this barrow, deny this to the Vampire Lord, Blanc, and then they're going to start marching back this way. So essentially what we have here, and we can kind of look a little bit down the road, whenever we finish this second Battle of the Crossroads, that's going to occur on the 27th. So whatever results, on the 27th, Force Seraph is going to be down here. And then this is basically the distance that they'll march. On the 29th, they're only going to be about halfway to, on the 29th, mind you, they're only going to be halfway to the Crossroads. So if Force Desdemona wins on the 27th, they're going to have to wait on the 28th, recover their dead. Now, this barrow can't regenerate more skeletons until April 3rd. And as you can see, Force Seraph will get there in plenty of time. So rather than wait around, Force Desdemona, the survivors, will march on down and take on Force Seraph if they win. So as I said, the battle's on the 27th, recuperate on the 28th, start marching on the 29th. We're going to wind up fighting another battle somewhere in here. We can figure that out later, but I just wanted to show you what that means. Now, what that also means is Force Archangel on the 29th, they're going to be able to move up on the 30th, and then on the 1st, they're going to hit Castle Gallagher, and we will be able to handle our siege. Now, as far as that siege is concerned, it may even begin a little before that, because if Force Cherub wins and destroys Force Desdemona, drives them from the field, what have you, then what that means is they're going to have to take the 27th to recover, the 28th will bless, and then they'll get here on the 29th, they'll be about right here, and then on the 30th. So basically, here around on the 30th, the 1st, 2nd, that's when our siege is going to begin. And we'll roll for a new event. We'll see if anything fancy happens. Again, using Henry Hyde's wonderful wargaming campaigns. And at that point, we can start exploring Appendix 4, Rules of Siege. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but I just want to reaffirm my commitment to playing this campaign to the bitter, bloody end. I understand, we at the beginning speculated that this was either going to be a very quick victory for the Broman Empire. That seems to be where we're heading. Or it was going to be a long, slow grinding down by the undead. The Bromans have maintained their momentum. They've done a great job just continuing to stomp their way up towards the castle. But the real question is, can they get there with enough forces available to launch an effective siege? And that's really what this is all about. I mention that because it does play a role, as it did in the first Battle of the Crossroads. It may be the case that Desdemona is trying to, that once they win here, the better option may be to retreat to Castle Gallagher so that there are plenty of forces there. I do have an army list for the guys that are in Castle Gallagher. And one of the things I kind of regret, so here's Lord Blanc's forces. He has 43 skeletons. He originally had 24. Add the 17 from Thrall Dane, and then he's also got 15 zombies. So I got to be honest with you, I haven't read Appendix 4 at all yet. I don't know if that's enough to really mount an effective defense. It may be that on April 1st, the moon is right. If we take a look at it and go, man, there's like no game here. It's just going to be like completely over. We may go ahead and figure out a way. Maybe he taps into the deep crypts and comes up with a little bit more reinforcements to keep the siege interesting. But the big thing I wanted to mention is at this point, when we get to the crossroads, we know the Bromans are defending this crossroads. In fact, we may go ahead and why don't we just like make that right here? We'll call that the end of the road. This is the crossroads where we fought that last battle, and this is the barrow. We know there are light woods down here in the corner, and the Bromans are going to have to set up over here. What this means is, because we haven't determined this side of the battlefield, we got to figure out what's up over there. And for those of you that haven't seen it before, we use this excellent book. It's called the Solo Wargaming Guide. It is by William Sylvester, and he's got a fun little chart here. You lay out cards, and then you see if it's a red card, then it's nothing. But if it's a black card, then you look at the kind of card it is, and on a 2, you've got a hill. So that's how we determine what the rest of these battlefield. Let me cut the deck just so you see that I'm not, and I'm obviously too clumsy to be able to cut it exactly where I want to. So all I'm going to do is lay out 4 cards and then 3 cards, and that will tell us what is along like these 2 boundaries. So black, 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 red, black, and red. So we have 7, 10, and an 8, and then a 4 over here. So running along the top, the 7, 10, and 8. The 7 and the 8 are light woods. The 10 is a marsh. So we've got light woods here, and I guess what I'm looking at here, and then we've got a marsh, and then we've got more light woods. So what I'm seeing down here is that there's no way off that way. That this is just and we may just declare that there's no moving off the battlefield in that direction. The 4 is going to be heavy woods, and that's going to be right on this side of the road. Well, I'm not sure. Why don't we roll a d6? On a 1, 2, or 3, the heavy woods are on the north, and on a 4, 5, or 6, they're on the south. So we do have heavy woods right here that look a little something like this. In fact, maybe we'll just bring that up here into the corner, and that tells us that the undead, when they come in, they're going to be pinched more to the south, and that kind of dictates. Now, I guess, do we have anything in the center of the battlefield? That's the other question. Do I have anything right there? We can kind of fill that out. And with a black 7, we have more light woods. So we have light woods here. We've got a little light wood right here. And then we've got heavy woods. So I guess the point is that this is all virtually impassable for everybody, that you can't get off the table in that direction. And then all we have to worry about is this light woods in the center and these light woods and the barrow mound, of course, down here, which is really going to hamper, I think, the deployment of the Bromans as the undead are deploying kind of just all along here. I guess that's the way we do it. Undead. And now we are ready to set up our deployment and move on to the next phase of the campaign, which will be fighting out this battle. How big a point battle is this? I don't know. I mean, if you just kind of look at it, if you have necromancer, direwolves, bats, 50 skeletons, altogether, that's about 12 or 1,300 points. I think it's a pretty fair matchup. If you guys have ever done a siege using these rules and you have any advice for me, go ahead and leave a comment down there. I'd really appreciate it. This will be my first time. I'm excited to get through this last battle so that we can move on to something really unusual. I don't see a lot of sieges on YouTube, and particularly with this Warhammer 6th edition, which is relatively popular. There's quite a few battles in 6th edition, and it's been very helpful going back and watching some of those and seeing everything that I've done wrong. We're learning, this is a mountain that even once I perfect this game and I get to the top of it, I'm just going to start looking for a new mountain to climb. And, using you guys as my Sherpas. Hey, thanks for coming along for the ride. Till next time, I'm praying for you.